It's a beautiful day here in Avondale, Pennsylvania. On this edition of Forever Home, we're going to talk about what goes into putting in custom built-in shelving inside of a closet space. We'll also talk a little bit about built-ins and show you some of the work we're doing in the bathrooms here. But the focus of this video is going to be all about shelving in your pantry closets. Let's get going. Here we go. Come on in. We'll give you the tour. Customer asked us to take care of a couple things in here. So we're going to be working on replacing this vanity and the mirror, getting a new light in here. The toilet's getting replaced as well. So we've got her new vanity stage here. We just pulled it out of the box, unpacked it, checked it for damage, make sure everything was good. So that's going in. We're currently working on the master. This is the old vanity that came out, and we're getting ready to take that outside. And just a beautiful set of doors on this. You know, I hate to throw this away. These are gorgeous. Maybe I can try to find somebody that has some use for that. And we're working on getting our new one, all of our holes cut down here for the drain lines and everything marked to finish that. So that's happening. But what I really want to show you guys today is the shelving project that we've been working on. Come on over here to the other side of the room. So these are the wire shelves that she had existing in these two pantries on either side of the entrance to the kitchen here. So show you pin rails and what they look like. This is just a piece of beautiful clear 1x4 pine that we ripped down. And the trick here is finding your studs and figuring out where those are. Now in this case, we were able to hit the back corner and there's one midpoint. If you don't have a stud midpoint, then you might have to extend these longer past your shelves and come all the way to the front, catch a stud so you've got good support on that. There's no magic to what size these are. I don't like to make them too huge, but you know, too small, you're not gonna get enough support. So you wanna pick a good size in there. These are 1 3/8. We can go as big as 1 3/4 pretty easily. In this particular job, we opted to go 1 3/8 on the pin rails. Get those in, and we put them at the same height as the original shelves, so we covered up all of the old spackle holes. That'll save her painter a little bit of work, or she may choose to stain these. She hasn't decided that yet. So we're back in at the same height she was. We get rid of the wire shelves that things can fall through, and we wanna get her some real nice solid wood shelving in here. So we're started on that front. Now over here, you can see we've already got our shelf boards cut, but this is where it starts to get exciting. Part of the trick to getting these in is figuring out what shape that closet is. What do you mean what shape? It's rectangle. No, it's never rectangle. I'll show you what I mean. When Norm gets in here and he starts trying to set these shelves up and we put the speed square in the corner, see how it rocks? That's because when they taped this corner, the drywall has gotten packed out. And so it's thicker there, so now you got a high spot. We also have a bump in this back wall where this shelf, where the wall humps this direction. So we gotta figure out how to deal with this. We gotta potentially scribe the back edge of this to custom match that back wall. And then the other really exciting possibility here is that this entire shelf is cattywampus like a trapezoid. So I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this in the video, but we're really tight here. We're a little bit loose here. We're a little bit loose in this back corner, and we're really tight up front. Now this board was cut square. The people who hung the drywall in this particular space, obviously it's not a perfect square. It is trapezoidal. It is out by, you know, what is it, 1/8 of an inch? Could we just cover that with caulk? Yeah, we could. If she's going to stain it, and then we want that, you know, appearance to be a little bit tighter. And so when we talk about providing a quote to put shelves in, how nice do you want it? How do you want these lines all even and tight to the cabinet, or are you okay with it? And we do it to leave them a little bit loose just to have room to lift this up and drop it in. I'll show you from this side. And we got to actually set these in here. And then we have to have room to get the nail gun on here and nail that down, and then still get our nail gun across the front here if we're going to put a board across the piece. So if we got 8 shelves and every one of these takes an extra, you know, 15 minutes, half an hour to get all those different corners and everything right, or do we start cutting and smacking on the drywall to try to push that tape corner back so we can get a tighter fit? How detailed do we want to get, and how nice do you want it to look when we're finished? You want it to look nice? It's gonna take time. So the solution on this one right now, because of how it's sitting, we're actually out in front of the pin rail on this side. The shelf is sitting too far this way and it has to go back. So do we shave off here to allow it to drop back? Do we shave off back there in the corner and allow it to go back? And those are the measurements and the angles that Norm has to take some measurements on and try to figure out to determine where do we take that last 16th off to slide this in so it's gonna look pretty and perfect when it's done. Now I happen to really like these boards for shelf boards, and I don't know if you're going to see it or all here on the video, but what they've done is they've taken about 2-inch wide strips of pine and they've glued them together and then run them through a planer and made them nice and smooth, so we can get a wider board. We can get 16 inches, we can get 24 inches. They might come 36 might be pushing it, and they come in various different lengths. Of course they get expensive the longer you get, so we try to figure out these are 33-inch shelves, so we bought 6-footers, 36 inches, cut them down to 33, and that's going to work for us here on this project. So the other question that comes up when we start talking about fine finish carpentry is, how much does it cost to get built-ins done in my living room? Let's say you wanted to take this entertainment center and flank it with cabinets all the way up and around. There's a couple, I mean, besides the time to physically build the furniture, cut the plywood, get everything to size. Some of the other challenges that we run into when we're working on those types of projects can be bowed studs, where the framer, didn't have things all facing the same direction, or just the lumber came in crazy. And we'll put a link down in the description to a video from our finished basement series where we talk about straightening out studs and how we would do that, say, in a kitchen application, because the straighter those studs are, the straighter the wall is, the easier everything else is that we're going to do going down the road. So framer didn't quite get the closet square. The drywaller had to drywall what he had to drywall, and now here we are trying to straighten it all out with the cabinet. So there can be some challenges involved. So let's say we're doing a set of built-ins, on this wall back here. If those studs are bowed in and out, if the sheetrock runs wavy because the studs are at different locations, that can be a challenge. If your floor isn't perfectly level, then we're talking about shimming things and trying to get everything level. If your ceiling isn't level, now in this case we have a slope ceiling, but if that were a straight across row like we have here, and maybe it's not straight, maybe the rafters have some humps and some dips to them, and you're trying to run crown mold and get a nice consistent reveal across the top of the cabinet area, where the cabinet meets the doors or the cabinet meets the first shelf, whatever it is. You want the crown molding tight to the ceiling, but you also want a consistent reveal all the way across. And how do you split that difference to make that happen? So in addition to trying to cut everything and get everything perfect and pretty and square and hide all the edges and make all those joints really tight so you don't see anything, especially if it's gonna be a stained product and not a painted product. If it's painted, you can get away with a little bit more because there's caulk, there's wood filler, there's other things. If you're staining it, there's not as much opportunity to hide some of those imperfections. So you've really got to get everything cut perfectly. Has to be done with excellence. So if you're doing built-in, there are some other challenges that come with that. When you're designing a set of built-ins or laying out what you think you want, one area that a lot of clients of ours have forgotten is to calculate the thickness of your shelf. You can say, I want a shelf every 10 inches, and you draw that in the plans, and you forget that shelf is 3/4 of an inch thick, and then there might be a 1 3/8 or larger pinrail across the front, some sort of a front detail to hide that unfinished edge of the piece of wood. And so you get that thickness as well, and that starts cutting into your shelf depth if you have a specific stereo component or a speaker that you're trying to put into that hole in the wall, and you say you want 10 inches, well, is that 10 inches clear? And then have you calculated the thickness of all those shelves all the way up and taken that into account in the design? And that's something that as we're building it, we're constantly thinking through and figuring out, making sure that what's on the plans, what's on the paper is right for here. And there are certain times when it just makes sense to have that built in a cabinetry shelf and then installed. So one of the other challenges that we can run into with any type of lumber, whether it's man-made put together or whether it's straight off the trees and just sliced out, is if it warps or bows in any way, shape, or form. You can see this has a nice curve to it. So do you put the curve up? Do you put the curve down? I think we're going to put the curve down and then nail that. And will it flatten? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe the weight of your stuff you put on there is going to help flatten it out, but there's not much we can do to straighten that. And the crazy part is this is engineered. This is stuff that they glued together and they glued up, and yet it's still warped. Maybe just picking up moisture in the showroom floor until it got purchased, or just by the nature of the wood. They've got all the curves going the same way in the grain of the wood, and I don't know if they were supposed to flip that or orient one way and one the other, but that's one of the things that Norm's going to have to deal with every time we do any kind of custom cabinetry work like this or custom shelving, is dealing with the imperfections in the raw materials that we're picking up. And there's nothing we can do about it. It's just part of what comes in the door. What's the phrase? There's only one perfect carpenter, and he lived 2,000 years ago. So we do the best we can with what they give us, and it's pretty gosh darn good when we're done. But there are some challenges and some headaches that go along with trying to make this look absolutely perfect. There are absolutely times when, rather than building on site a custom set of built-ins, it actually makes more sense for us to work with a full-time cabinet designer, cabinet builder, cabinet maker, and have them fabricate this in their wood shop, where they've got a very controlled environment. They've got the large work table surfaces, especially if we're doing something that's covering an entire wall. We've quoted projects for office spaces where they wanted a set of built-ins behind them, turn around and have that big credenza look with bookshelves and open and then some storage underneath, or like you're in your kitchen, base cabinet depth on the bottom and a countertop, and shorter 12-inch deep stuff above that. Lots of options, but depending on the size of what it is that you want done, like I said, sometimes it makes sense for us to take that design and have it fabricated off-site and then bring it in and install it. But it really is going to depend on each specific situation, what the best case scenario is going to be to solve your problem and to give you what you're looking for. In the case where you have a fireplace in the middle of a wall like this and it sticks out proud, then that may be one of the situations where it really does make sense, just like we're doing here in these two closets, is to go ahead and fabricate and build that shelving unit in place, maybe build that cabinet out front, and maybe we have a cabinet maker make us the door face off-site, especially if we're trying to match something else that's in your house and keep those doors looking similar, and we're going to put the door face on whatever it is that we're going to build. We did that with a pantry project, and we can link to that video down there in the description as well. But they're just depending on the situation. Sometimes it makes sense to fabricate on-site, sometimes it makes makes sense to fabricate offsite. So send us a picture, maybe a hand-drawn sketch of what it is that you're looking for, and then we can start talking about what would make the most sense in your situation. So we were talking about problems where you have studs that aren't quite straight. We're going to send you a link also down below to a video from our basement series where we showed you how we straighten studs and take the kinks out of the wall, which is especially important if you're doing a kitchen where you've got cabinets. If you try to hang cabinets on wompy studs, it's just not going to work out very well. You're going to have a very difficult time getting the front edges to all line up beautiful, pretty, and clean. And when you have two cabinets that meet each other, you want this corner to look right. And the only way you're going to get that to happen is if you have a very perfectly straight, perfectly plumb wall, and then all of your studs are, string line straight from one end down to the other so that everything lines up. So we'll send you a link to that video down there in the description as well. That's in our finished basement series talking about how you can straighten studs before you hang drywall and why it's important to work on that, especially if you're doing cabinetry or you're doing any kind of built-ins down the road. So Norm has the first 4 shelves in. Pin rails are all done. He's made all the adjustments he needs to make to shelving to get them to fit properly. And so the only thing left on this, these could be left just as they are. They're only 33 inches long, 3/4 plywood or 3/4 pine. This will hold plenty of weight in terms of a kitchen pantry shelf. So we could leave this just like this. We are planning at this point to put a finish rail on the front, and it's really just going to be decorative. There's not going to be a whole lot of support feature going on because we're simply going to be using nails. If we were going on a longer span, then what we might need to do is rabbet out the back of that and actually embed it top and bottom just a little bit above and below this shelf and have that rabbeted out the back side of a 1x so that we have some rigidity across the front here to help stiffen this and spread that load all the way across with a vertical piece of lumber with the rabbet in the back. Your other choice is to put dividers in or to put stick legs in, and we have some other projects where we've done that, and it really just depends on what the situation is, what look you're going for, how much weight you're planning to put on the shelves, whether or not you need that face rail, and whether or not it's just decorative to hide this front edge. If we were using plywood instead of this pine, you'd have a very unfinished edge here. You might want to hide that with something, and one way to do that is to just put the decorative piece of wood on the front. If you need the outer support, then you've got to put that rabbet in the back and embed it and recess it, and then that gets all kinds of fun when you start trying to figure out how to work the recess on this and account for this guy. Do you keep your pin rail back a hair to account for the distance you're going to reset? Well, those are all the mental gymnastics that you have to work through as you're laying these out and taking into account the wonkiness of this not being a perfect rectangle. So lots of things you got to think through. It's a time-consuming process to get it right and to make it look good when you're done. So here's the other side. We've got the pin rails in and studs marked and everything where that needs to go. So Norm is going to start repeating that same process we just did on the other side of getting his shelves, laying them in there, figuring out which way this closet is wonky, and if it's out of square in any which way, how does he need to adjust his shelves so that when we're finished, everything fits, everything's clean, and you've got some good lines that you can then stain or caulk and paint whenever it's done. If you want us to finish, we can absolutely finish it. In this case, she's having a painter come through in January and do the entire house. So there's no sense her paying us to take care of this piece. Just let the painter take care of it all when they're doing the rest of the house. So let's get going. So if you're working on your forever home and you'd like to bring that up to date to where you want it, where you're going to enjoy it for the next 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it may be, give our team a call. There's nothing that we don't do. Roofing, siding, windows, doors, decks, anything on the interior of your home, renovate your kitchen, your master bathroom, finish your basement for you, plumbing, electrical, drywall, spackle, paint, build an addition, a custom dream home, a garage, whatever it is that we can help you with. Take a picture of your problem, send it to us right here on our Facebook page. Click that Contact Us button there at the top. Our team will be happy to assist you. If you prefer to call by phone, we have a dedicated office staff standing by to answer your calls weekdays, 9:30 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon at 484-748-0008. Choose option 2 for 𝗂𝘁'𝘀, your full-service construction and renovation company, and extension 2 for new projects. 𝗂𝘁'𝘀 is a Pennsylvania home improvement contractor number 88078 and licensed in Newcastle County, Delaware 10490. Remember, when it's too hard for everybody else, it's just right for us. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video. Hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get updated on all of our video tips that are gonna help you as you're interviewing contractors for work on your forever home to know who knows what they're talking about and who's just blowing smoke. This is Drew in beautiful Avondale, Pennsylvania. Remember, we're finished with it. You're gonna be proud to say it's not just done. It was 𝗂𝘁'𝘀. We'll catch you in the next edition of Forever Home. Bye for now.